Okay, so let's continue our discussion in numerical methods. So, tapos na tayo sa introduction. Now, we proceed to roots of algebraic and transcendental equations. So, the general problem is to find the roots of an equation in the form f of x is equal to 0, where f of x is a continuous function of x with numerical coefficient. We have types of equation. Polynomial equation has multiple terms made up of numbers, variables, and exponents. So, marami siyang terms. Now, for transcendental equation naman, equations obtaining transcendental function of the variable being solved. Okay, so a transcendental function is a function which is not an algebraic function. So, in other words, it cannot be expressed in terms of algebra. So examples of transcendental functions include the logarithmic functions, exponential functions, trigonometric functions, and the inverse functions of both. Okay, so those are transcendental equations. Now, or functions, I should say. And solutions of equations, we have analytical and non-trivial. So analytical has a proof, a series of logical steps that can be followed and verified as correct. The examples niya will be algebraic equation up to second degree and special transcendental equations. For non-trivial naman, third degree polynomial. So solutions or trial and error, graphical method, and iterative numerical method. So, ito yung mga gagawin natin sa numerical methods natin. So, we have this first method in solving for roots of equations, the bracketing methods. So, under bracketing methods, meron tayong first is the graphical method. So, graphical method is a simple method for obtaining an estimate root of the equation f of x is equal to 0 is to make a plot of the function and observe where it crosses the x-axis. So this point, which represent the x value for f of x is equal to 0, provides a rough approximation of the root. So dito mag-graph ka. Okay, so this is also a assumption. Assumption yung gagawin natin dito. Okay, so let's have example. Find the root of the equation f of x is equal to sine 10x plus cosine 3x where x ranges from 0 to 5. Okay? So, gagawin natin is gawa tayo ng table of x and f of x. Okay? So, since we're dealing with sines and cosines, trigonometric identities, let us put our calculators in radians mode. So, radians mode tayo. So, our x is from 0 to 5. So, ito. Or, that should be 0 to 5. Okay, so our x is from 0 to 5. Oh, sorry. And this will be equal to 0, tapos 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course, the 5. So, ang gagawin natin is to plug this different values of x dito sa equation natin to solve for f of x. So, first one is at x is equal to 0, what is f of x? So, plug natin si 0 dito. So, sine of 0 is 1. Okay, sine of 0 plus cosine of 0 is equal to 1. So, our f of x is equal to 1. Now, if our x is equal to 1, what is our f of x? Okay, so our f of x will be negative 1.5340. So, round off tayo to hindi, dito muna is 2 decimal places. Okay, so 2 decimal places tayo. This will be equal to negative 1.53. Okay, then for x equal to 2, what is the value of our f of x? That is that is positive 1.87. And when x is equal to 3, our f of x will be equal to negative 1.9. And if our x is equal to 4, that is equal to negative 1.59. And lastly, for our x equal to 5, okay, what is our f of x? That will be equal to negative 1.02. So what we will do is to i-plot na natin ito. Okay? So let's plot this one. This will be our y-axis and this is our x-axis. X-axis and our y-axis. Okay? So una, meron tayong 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so dapat kapag nag-plot ka, equally divided yung spacing mo dito. Dapat as in na equal siya. Okay, so this will be equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Huwag na natin isulat. Masyadong malalaki. Okay? And then for our f of x, dito natin ilalagay kay y. So when x is equal to 0, f of x is equal to 1. So dito siya. Okay. Okay, so dito siya. This is 1. Okay, so yan. At f of x is equal, at x is equal to 0. Now, for x is equal to 1, so dito siya, f of x is equal to negative 1.53. So if this is 1, okay, so negative 1.53 natin will be dito sa gitna. And this one. So dito siya. Diyan makikita si negative 1.53. And then for x equal to 2, that is positive 1.87. So if this is 1, this is 2. So malamang mga nandito siya approximately. Okay? And for x equal to 3, of our f of x or y is equal to negative 1.9. So this is 3. Tapos our answer will be here. Our point will be here. And for x is equal to 4, that is negative 1.59. Negative 1.59 ba? That should be positive. Okay? So, positive dapat yan, hindi negative. So, that should be, okay, positive 1.59. Okay, next. So, 4 natin. At 4, that is positive 1.59. So, this will be 4. And for 1.59, medyo mas mababa lang siya dito. So, say nandito siya. Nandito yung point natin. And for x is equal to 5, that is negative 1.02. So, for example, nandito siya. And we graph this one. Lagyan natin ng curve. Ayan. Oh my goodness, sorry. Okay. So, yan yung graph natin. So, meron tayong points here that touches 0. So, meron tayong tatlong points. Tatlong roots, possible roots of this equation which ranges, when our x ranges from 0 to 5. So, ganyan lang yung gagawin nyo for graphical method. But if you try to graph that on MATLAB, using MATLAB, you will find na meron tayong double root sa x is equal to 4.2. Okay? So, you try that in your MATLAB applications. So, that is graphical method. You just graph. Parang ginagawa nyo lang nung elementary. Okay? So, next tayo. Next bracketing method is the incremental search method. Okay, so how do we do this? If f of x sub 1 and f of x sub 2 have opposite signs, then there is at least one root in the interval x sub 1 and x sub 2. Okay? So dito naman, sa incremental search method, if the interval is small enough, it is likely to have a single root. Thus, the zeros of our function of x can be detected by evaluating the function at intervals delta x. Okay? So, delta x is x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And looking for a change in sign. So, dito sa incremental search method, kailangan natin na makakita ng change in sign. So, how is that? Okay, let's try an example. So, use incremental search with delta x equal to 0.2 to bracket the smallest possible zero if f of x is equal to x cubed minus 10x squared plus 5. Okay, so gawa ulit tayo ng table of x and f of x. Ayan. So, increment natin is 0.2. So, let's start at 0. Okay. Let's start at 0, tapos 0.2, and then 0.4, 0.6, and then 0.8. Okay? So, at x is equal to 0, what is f of x? So, if you're going to plug 0 sa equation natin, sa function natin, f of x will be equal to 5. Okay, 5.000. So, round off natin to 3 decimal places. And let's also include 1. Okay, 1.0. Okay, so when you plug 0.2 sa equation natin, that will be equal to 4.608. When you plug 0.4 dito sa function natin, that will be equal to 3.464. And 0.6, that is equal to 1.616. Okay, remember kailangan lang natin na mag-change yung sign ng ating f of x. Okay? So, etong mga values na to, hindi natin kailangang pag-interesan. Kasi ang interest lang natin dito, ang kukunin lang natin is yung change of signs. Okay? So, since wala pang change of signs, you still proceed to plugging in values of x's dito sa function natin. So, at 0.8, our f of x will be equal to negative 0.888. Okay. So, since meron na tayong change of sign from positive to negative, we can disregard this one. So, wag na nating ituloy. Dito na lang tayo. Okay? So, okay. So, from the sign change of f of x, okay, from the sign change of f of x, we can conclude that the smallest possible zero lies between x is equal to 0.6 and x is equal to 0.8. So, that is how you do the incremental search method. Okay? So, that's method number 2 in bracketing methods. So we have the third bracketing method, which is the bisection method or the half interval method. So ano naman ito? It is a variation of the incremental search method in which the interval is always divided in half. So far, this is the most reliable method. So yung formula natin will be x sub k plus 1 is equal to 1 over 2 times x positive raised to k plus x negative raised to k. So how do we use that formula? So example number 1, Find the root of f of x is equal to x cubed minus 2 sine x with initial bracket 0.5 and 2. Stop iteration until k is equal to 4. Okay, so since we are dealing again with trigonometric functions, um, yung mode ng calculators natin will be in radian mode. Okay, so the first thing we should do is to create this table. So yung table natin, column 1 will be values for k. Tapos column 2, values for x positive, and then x negative, and this is x raised to k plus 1 from the formula. Tapos this will be the function of f of x raised to k plus 1. Okay? So, ito, since stop iteration until k is equal to 4, so we'll start at 0. At k is equal to 0. So, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, how do we know kung, since given tayo ng initial bracket, which is si x positive and si x negative. However, how do we know kung sino si x positive and kung sino si x negative dito? So, what we should do is to plug these values dito sa ating function. And if the answer is positive, then that is our x positive. If the answer is negative, then that is our x negative. And in our initial bracket given 0.5 and 2, x positive will be 2. Okay, so si 2 and x negative will be 0.5. Okay, so yung formula natin will be x raised to k plus 1 is equal to 1 half times ni x positive raised to k plus x negative raised to k. Okay. So, at k is equal to 0, this is equal to, yung formula natin will be x raised to 0 plus 1 is equal to 1 half times x positive natin is 2 plus x negative natin is 0.5. So, yun yung ipa-plug natin dito. So, this will be x raised to 1, since 0 plus 1 is 1, is equal to 1 half times 2.5. And this is equal to, what is 1 half of 2.5? That is 1.25. Okay, so, yung 1.25 na yon, ito yung ipa-plug natin dito to get the value of f of x raised to k plus 1, which is f of, in this case, f of x raised to 1, which is this one. So, x raised to 1 natin is 1.25. So, when we plug 1.25 sa ating function, what do we get? Okay, so I forgot to say pala about this one. Okay, so meron tayong initial bracket dito, which is, since negative si 0.5 natin, ilagay natin dito. This will be 0.5, which is negative. And this is C2, which is positive. Okay. So, yung pagkuha natin ng roots using the bisection method should be between a negative and a positive. Okay. So, dito natin kinuha yung root and our answer is 1.25. Okay. Now, if we try to plug this into our equation, our function, our f of x raised to 1, ito, f of x raised to 1 will be equal to 0.0552, which is a positive value. So, we can say na positive yung ilalagay natin dito na sign. Therefore, our new interval, our new bracket will be 0.5 and 1.25. Negative si 0.5, okay? And then positive natin will be si 1.25. And we repeat this process. So, x raised to, what is k? That is 1. So, 1 plus 1, x raised to 2 is equal to 1 half. Our 1.25 positive, x positive, 1.25 plus 0.5. So, this will be equal to 0.875. Okay? So this is 0.875. So we can put this here dito sa gitna. So remember ha, dapat yung pagkukuhanan mo ng root will be, or values of x, or the root will be between a negative and a positive x value. Okay, so what is the sign of our 0.875? If we plug it dito sa function natin, our f of x raised to 2 is equal to negative 0.8652. Okay, so correct to round up to 4 decimal places. So since negative to, we can say negative ito. So saan tayo kukuha ngayon ng roots? Ibig sabihin, the next root will be this one, this interval. So this is our first interval. Ayan. This is our first interval. Our second interval, kinuha natin dito. Okay, so this is our second interval. For our third interval naman is kinuha natin dito. Okay? So, our negative will be 0.875 and our positive is 1.25 still. So, our x raised to 3, kasi nasa 2 na tayo na k, so 2 plus 1 is 3, equal to 1 half times 1.25 plus 0.875. And this is equal to 1.0625. And if we plug this sa function natin, our f of x raised to 3 is equal to negative 0.5477. Okay, so this is 1.0625 and this is negative. So, saan kukunin yung next, sang interval natin kukunin yung next? Dito. So, this is our fourth interval. Okay, so dito na natin kukunin. So, this is equal to, since this is, ano yung x negative natin? That is 1.6025. And our x positive is still 1.25. So, we are going to compute for our x raised to 4, that is equal to 1 half times 1.0625 plus 1.25 equal to, this is equal to 1.1563. So, round off to 4 decimal places. Okay, so if we are going to plug this sa function natin, our f of x raised to 4 will be equal to negative 0.2846. So, still negative siya. So, yan. So, the next interval na pagkukuhanan natin ng root will be, positive natin is still 1.25 and our x negative will be 1.1563. Okay, so we are going to compute for x raised to 5. And this is equal to 1 half times 1.1563 plus 1.25. This is equal to 1.2032. And if we plug this sa ating function, that will be equal to negative 0.1245. So since this is negative, so this is our fifth interval. And we stop at k is equal to 4. So we stop at fifth interval. So that is how you solve for the root of an equation using the bisection method. So remember lang na you need to get the value between a negative and a positive interval. Okay?